is there is two styles. They are the more sophisticated investors who do fundamental analysis, and they read a lot of material, and they are the primary drivers of the market. There is also a different type of investor who's called a technical analyst. And the technical analyst is looking at the prices and is trying to figure out, based on what I see in the market and based on the economy, do I think this price will go up by aggressively or in a little bit, and in how long? Then there is a third type, which is one that I think is truly exciting from my perspective, which is algorithm. It is computer-based. So you take a computer and ask it to make that decision for you, to do the analysis for you. And that just produces wonderful results, to the extent that most of the world now does computer-based investing, right? And this is what actually now has come in Kenya. So I would come in, I'd turn on the computer and I'd ask, all right, tell me, based on the prices that you see, what do you think is the best to buy right now? It would give you the result, and it would tell you a general view why. And you just have to read for 2 minutes, and then you'd make your final decision, as a mature person. And it's as easy, it's as simple as that. And I don't have to deal with employees, I don't have to deal with logistics of bringing merchandise and insurance and all of these things. It is quite a wonderful way of working. And
for people who maybe, people have been conned on the internet. Yeah?
Absolutely.
You go somewhere, you see some investment option promising some crazy returns, and end up losing all your savings or all the investment that you have.
Yes.
And that takes you back. Sometimes it takes people back to poverty. For some people, it takes you back a number of years. How do people, what do you need to look out for when you're looking for investments to put your money in online?
Excellent. So the first thing is regulated. That's the first word that you have to look for. The provider has to be regulated by some entity, and there is quite a number. The primary regulator for investment, of course, is the Capital Markets Authority. The second item one has to look for is to have an understanding that the amount of reward I will receive is exactly equal to the amount of risk I will take. So if someone is promising you a lot of money, a lot of return, it therefore means that they are also promising you significant risk. You either understood the risk or you didn't understand the risk, but you are knowing that there was risk is based on how much. If it tells you I will double your money in 2 days, understand that is the risk that you took, and you can't get away from that relationship. It's like gravity. So you take those two pieces in mind. And then the third is you just have to keep growing your knowledge in a particular area. If today I wanted to become a chicken farmer, I don't expect that everything will work smoothly. I have to take time to learn the business. And it's the same way even in stock market trading.
Right.
Yes.
This algorithm trading,
yes.
Tell us more about it. How safe is it? Can someone trust it? Because sometimes you want to see an actual human being yeah, for you to know that we can trust this person. So tell us about how safe it is.
Excellent. Let me perhaps start from a global perspective. Internationally, the majority of trading happens is algorithmic. Let's use is computer technology based. And that is because of the level of certainty that a machine has. A machine does not get sick. It doesn't have any bias. It doesn't like the presenter who was presenting the investment material. It just looks at the hard and fast numbers. And that's where the majority of the industry has gone in this way. And I say that even coming from a trip to India, where we visited the National Securities Exchange, they had 18 billion orders traded a day. That is a B, for 18 billion orders. Yeah. There is no human being sitting down and punching in 18 billion orders in that day. It is purely algorithmic trading. So if we were to look at where the market is going, it is a lot safer, a lot more efficient than any human being could be. That said, what the technology does is it proposes to you what you want to do, and then you'll make the final decision yourself. Or you could have, for instance, if it is through our company, our investment council could give you guidance and tell you, this is what we have produced, this is what we feel from what the technology has provided.
Right.
Yes, yes.
This conversation continues. We are talking about leveraging technology for investment, and Donald Wangunyu, the CEO of Forefront Management, is here with me. He's telling us about how important it is for you to access those investment options even if you don't have a financial advisor. This conversation continues in a bit. We want to take you to Parliament, where the Interior Cabinet Secretary Kithure Kindiki is in front of the National Assembly's Regional Integration Committee answering some questions on matters security. Let's listen into that.
Yeah, I just have one question. Waziri, mine is concerning the cyber threats, organized crimes, and terrorism. How does the ministry engage with other East African relevant member states to develop coherent regional policy and framework that address transition security issues? Thank you, Waziri. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you, Waziri, for the elaborate presentation. I draw you back to the Shirika plan that you alluded to that is waiting cabinet approval. Within the Shirika plan, you say that the refugees will enjoy some freedoms, rights, and some benefits. Will you kindly maybe outline the social benefits that these refugees will enjoy? If they'll have maybe rights to voting, maybe if they have rights to marriage, so that will be allowed to marry or also be married in Kenya. I don't know how is this Shirika plan marrying the different diverse cultures in Kenya. How do you safeguard our social organization? Lastly, Honorable CS, before we integrate and settle refugees in Kenya, do you have a plan to settle the internally displaced people who are displaced by different causes? Thank you.
You can respond, then we can take this next round starting with information. So, Honorable CS, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Chair, and thank you, members, for the very, very pertinent questions and clarifications that you have sought. I'll try and respond to all of them as briefly as I can, without omitting any necessary detail. We shall eliminate the roadblocks because that is the presidential directive. We have to respect it and we will comply. It's also in the interest of the country because roadblocks are an old way of security management. Many countries, including countries younger than Kenya, in many ways do not have roadblocks anymore, even on the African continent. As I have said, the policy is that roadblocks should only be mounted first with the approval of the police headquarters, and secondly, there must be a need for that roadblock. And as soon as that need is achieved, the roadblock is dismantled. I would not want to dispute what Mheshimiwa Gitari has said, and I think the Honorable Naomi. But I would want also to bring to the attention of the committee, Honorable Chair, that other than the normal traffic roadblocks, we have other roadblocks that are serving purposes beyond traffic management and purposes beyond normal enforcement of normal traffic-related offenses or even trade-related offenses. We have certain roadblocks that are permanent because they are roadblocks that are helping us to deal with the threat of terror. If you come from Northeastern, for example, you realize there's a roadblock at
Kanyonyo, in Mwingi, in Kitu area, just near the border police unit campus. That roadblock is permanent and is 24 hours, and every car must stop there. Every car, even a VIP car, must stop, because that roadblock is gazetted and is one of the roadblocks that are helping in our fight against terror. If you are coming from Upper Eastern, you realize there's a roadblock at a place called Archer's Post. That one is not just a traffic roadblock. If you're coming from Tana River, Upper Coast, down to Malindi, you'll again find we have another roadblock as you enter Malindi towards Mombasa. So we have a number of roadblocks that even with the removal of the ordinary traffic management roadblocks, we must still maintain them because of the fight against terror. Otherwise, I do not want to dispute that we have others that are not serving that purpose, and we have given directive, we have cascaded the presidential directive to the National Police Service that from 1st of November, we do not want to see a roadblock except the ones that we gazette for the purpose which I have said, and they are few. And they are few. I will not again go beyond that, but I just wanted members to know that some of the roadblocks have a very critical purpose, and they have helped us to achieve a lot. Many of the things we don't even announce, we have been able to intercept and thwart serious incidents of threats as late as 3 months ago, and those roadblocks are critical. What we can improve on, and continuously we are working on that, is to improve on the public relations and customer relations on our officers who are manning those roadblocks, so that they remain strict but very courteous. Yeah, they are very courteous. They treat you courteously. They ask you questions courteously, and they allow you to proceed without being rude or crude. That is the area we are working on to improve on the software. And I think some of the roadblocks, the reports we've been getting, even from elected leaders, are very positive. That the officers are fairly courteous, especially for the specific roadblocks that I have mentioned. The second issue, Chair.
That is the Interior Cabinet Secretary, Professor Kithure Kindiki there. He is in front of the National Assembly's Regional Integration Committee, answering a number of issues on matters security, of course, ensuring that the country is safe. We now want to take you to Narok, where the Maa Cultural Week has been ongoing. Our very own Jackie Wambiru has been bringing us reports all through the week. Jackie, what is the latest this morning?
A very good morning to you, Betty Kiptum, right there from the broadcasting house. We are at the Maasai Mara National Reserve, where the Maa Cultural Week is happening, and it is the last day where this will culminate, where we shall be focusing on the Maa Sports Day, where it involves a myriad of activities, including jumping, rungu throwing, javelin, among other activities. At the same time, in the event, we shall be expecting Deputy President Rigathi Gachagua to grace the event, and thereafter that will culminate the Maa Cultural Week. Remember, this is the inaugural event. This is the first ever, and this will be happening in other counties come next year. And this next year perhaps in Kajiado or in Samburu, and this will continue in other Ma community counties. And now, just to give you an overview of what is happening just nearby, we are at a community-based organization dubbed Tepeswa Community Village, where it's all about empowering women and girls. And to give us an overview of what happens here at the community village, we shall be joined by a philanthropist who is behind this initiative. Her name is Helen Nkuraia. And Helen, kindly, if you could join us, well, kindly help us to understand exactly. We're seeing women and girls here who have done a wonderful job with the beadwork. Perhaps help us understand what it is that they are making. And Mbugua, kindly, if you could show us. Let's first talk to Helen to help us understand what exactly is happening here. Helen?
Yes. What is happening here, we are doing a sustainable community ecotourism, where tourists come to Kenya, and they don't just come and see the animals, they also interact with the community to empower them economically. So the women here started this project to empower women through tourism. And the women here, you can see they come here, they make jewelries, and when we have tourists coming to go to Maasai Mara, because we are on our way to Maasai Mara, they drop in here and then they buy the artifacts from the women, which is empowering them economically.
We also have girls here, and you're all about supporting the women and girls. When it comes to supporting girls, what are you doing about it?
When it comes to supporting the girls, I've started 2 schools. One is by the name Nkitengelepa School, based in Majimoto, where these girls are schooling there. Instead of being cut, and then they are married off in exchange of cows. So I started that school so that I can also provide them with the education. And then we have a small school here, also by the name Tepeswa. So I'm also empowering young girls to have education.
Very well. Now, let's walk around here as we learn what it is that the women are making. Could you help us understand? We see these beautiful keychains, but some of the things that we're seeing here, maybe you help us understand what is their symbolism and what they're called.
For example, the women, also the girls, when they are still young, they learn from their mothers how to do beading. And while they are on holiday, I advise them they can help make like keychain, and then this keychain they also sell to their mothers or to me, and then we pack them together with the Kenyan coffee and Kenyan tea, and we put the keychain inside to be a gift bag, and we sell to tourists. And with that money, we are able to educate one girl or buy school uniform for one girl.
Now let's move along here, where Mbogwe, if you could focus on those, could you help us understand what are these?
So okay, this one's like they are cow's horn. It is used. Normally, my midwives, they put medicine here for treatment, okay? And then there is rungus, which are used by the men for protection. And then, they are also selling the Maasai blanket. And the same blanket, they are making, they are making this shopping bag, you can see, from the same blanket, and then we sell them here. And when we sell them here, we are able to have money to educate a girl to go to school, rather than be married in exchange of cows in terms of dowry. And apart from shopping bags, we also make laptop bags, and we are also making washable sanitary pads, days for the girls, because most of the girls, they drop out of school when they reach adolescent because of lack of sanitary pads. So we make them also here, and we pack them like this, as you can see, because we don't want to use polythene bag. So each bag like this has three wings, you can see. And then these pieces here to put at the middle, they are 10 pieces. So by the time the girl or the lady, because my project involves women and girls, so they all use them. By the time you are using the third one, because we put 3 wings inside like this one, the first one has already dried. So, and these are the gift bags I was talking about. We also make them here, and I go to city and I buy Kenyan coffee. So we are also promoting Kenya coffee because Kenya produces the best coffee in the world. And then we have Kenyan black tea with the ginger from the highlands of Kericho and Rimuru. And then the girls at the rescue center, they make the keychains of what they see within the environment, like wild animals. Like this one is a zebra. Maybe let's see what is inside here. This one has a Simba, lion. So then we pack them like this with a ribbon of Kenyan flag, and then we sell it as a gift bag, and we are able to learn the small school around here at Tepeswa. We buy the requirements like chalks, whatever is required, okay? Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Very well.
Yeah. Yeah, so we also have we make the dog's collar, because we realize tourists, they love their dogs, just like the way the community loves the livestock, cows. So for them, they love the dog's collar. So the women they make, we bead them, and we also sell them here to tourists, so to empower them, the mamas. Mm-hmm. Yeah, and then we have the traditional shoes. We recycle from old car tire, and also they make the shields, the boys, the warriors, from the cow skin. Yeah, and also we make these bangles with the Kenyan flag, and we also sell them to tourists.
Now behind us is a room, or let's say it's a house where there's so much happening. I want you to tell us what is happening in this house.
So what is happening in this house is we have sewing machines, and these sewing machines was donated to us by KCB Bank, KCB Foundation Bank in Nairobi. And so they donated for us sewing machine. You can go and have a look. And they are the ones we are using to make the washable sanitary pads and the school uniform, the school backpack, as you have seen inside. But purposely, the KCB, they donated purposely because of the washable sanitary pads, because my project involves girls and women.
Very well. Well, Kiptum, there you have it. When we talk about sustainable empowerment, this is exactly what we're talking about, and we are able to see how the women are empowered and the girls are able to stay in school and empower them through education. Well, we shall be giving you more details once we head to where the festival is happening, and we'll be able to give you live coverage of the arrival of the Deputy President once he arrives at the venue. At the same time, we will keep you updated on developments right here from the Maasai Mara National Reserve. Well, back to you in studio, Kiptum.
Thank you very much, Jackie Wambiru. There, a very refreshing link from you. Of course, I wish I could be seeing the throwing of the rungu, that particular competition. It seems to be quite fun, but I hope you are having all the fun, as of course you give us those reports. And as she has said, the Deputy President, Rigathi Gachagua, is expected at the Maa Cultural Festival there. And of course, we shall be bringing you those details as the day goes on. We now come back to studio and continue with our conversation on matters money. Where does the money go? Investing, of course. We're talking about leveraging technology for investment with Donald Wangunyu, the Chief Executive Officer at Forefront Management. Thank you, Donald, for staying with us.
Thank you very much.
Awesome.
Yes.
I would like you to take maybe a viewer who is watching, take them on a step-by-step journey in terms of investing through this particular technology solution.
Excellent. So we need to first know who you are, because not all investment is suitable for everyone. So you'd start from our website, Forefront, F-O-U-R-F-R-O-N-T, mgt.ke. And you would first look at the primary reason of what we do and why we do it. You'd be able to understand that investing has different strategies for different times. So you can make money when the prices are rising, of course. You can make money when prices are falling. And you can also make money just by giving your shares off and getting interest against your shares. And so once you understand that, you register. And then we take you through and ask you, okay, what is your situation? Are you married? Do you have someone that you're taking care of? And then what is your level of understanding of the market? Once we take that information, the system is able to then propose to you the best platform for you to be able to begin. And then once you begin, it then takes you through very gently, very, keeping in mind that you are a busy person, you probably have 7 different things that you need to do. So it will keep adding to your knowledge as it's investing. So anytime that you're invested in a particular security, in a particular share, you will know why. Why did I buy this share at this time? What am I expecting? When am I expecting to come out of it, right? And so it doesn't pump all that information at one time, but we work at it gently. And you'll actually see different clubs that you enter, from the beginner clubs to the more advanced clubs, where we then begin to unlock even more opportunity, so that you never feel overwhelmed. You're always feeling knowledgeable and in control of the process that is happening. You're able to decide, should Forefront Management just go ahead and only notify me with the education, or do I want to make the final decision myself? And over time, what we've seen is a very different investor coming out. So that investors now are calling us back and saying, you know what, I really liked what we did with that. I really liked how we were able to take advantage of that dividend. And this was someone where 6 months earlier was saying, I have no idea what this whole thing is. And so we really enjoy seeing that journey coming up and being able to show or introduce investors to different clubs of knowledge as they are growing. And it's as simple as that. You just register, tell us who you are and what you understand, and then we do our thing. We just keep making you get better and better as you go. Yes. And
when you talk about the investment options that are available, are they limited to a certain geographical area, maybe Kenya only or Africa only, or can you access global investment options?
Oh, that's excellent. So first, we want to make sure that you are comfortable.
Okay.
So we start you off with Kenya only. And then as you grow in knowledge and as you understand, we will then unlock for you the global markets through one of the funds that we work with. But the key element is that you will always be feeling in control. It should be feeling as easy as doing any of my other things, any of my other decisions that I make. And as soon as the system recognizes that, yes, this person is actually following through very well, it continues to unlock more and more avenues for you. So the key thing here is to always make sure that you as an investor are always feeling that you are the one who is driving this ship. And even if we're making the investment decision for you, you're always able to say, I understand exactly why you did that, and I understand exactly where we're going to do this now. And then now, please, yes, open for me global markets. Yes, please, open for me the other avenues. Yes.
And is there a minimum amount that you need to invest, or is it just open?
Excellent. So we recommend, and it's a recommendation, to start with 50,000. The reason for that is because we need to be able to start with a bit of diversification. So this is not a unit trust or a fund of that nature. You are the investor in your own account. You are the one who is growing. And so if you're not able to raise the 50,000, we have several plans that we take you through to begin you on the path. Because a lot of the customers who come to us, they say, I haven't even begun saving enough money to be able to enter. And say, we put you into several paths. In fact, that's why our tagline is beyond saving.
Okay.
Right?
Okay.
So let's start you off and let's take you beyond saving, but gently and easily.
Right. I like that you brought out the issue of saving, because, of course, you cannot invest what you do not have.
Exactly.
So how do you start the journey of helping people to save?
That's an excellent question. So once we get in and we understand who you are and your current conditions, we're able to put you up on a path, and you choose your own path. So some say, you know what, I want to put away, I think I can put away 700 shillings a month. That's fine. Let's put it away, and we'll still continue giving you the knowledge so that you're not feeling that you're being left behind because we haven't put your money into the market. And then these 700 shillings, we put it into a savings scheme so that it's already earning interest. Anytime your money is not in the market, we give you interest on the money. So you're growing both financially, but you're also growing as a person, knowledgeably, right? Mm-hmm. So I could start, perhaps I had 10,000 to start, you had 25,000. I'm not disadvantaged because I'm the one with lesser money. We are growing on together. Another thing that we put together is we put a couple can work together but move at different speeds.
Okay.
So a couple can come together and say, yes, I want to join Forefront, but I am I'm a presenter, and my husband is hustling through the streets and he has 7 different projects that he's doing, right? I have enough time to move faster than him, or vice versa. And so the system will recognize the two of you separately, but then be able to manage your money together so that when you're making the decision, it's a joint decision, but your knowledge levels are growing separately and individually. And same with investment groups and the rest, where we tend to find in investment groups, there's usually 2 people or 3 people who are quite, they're the ones making all the decisions, they are the more loud people. And in that case, we feel a little bit for the rest of the members who are somewhat being just driven forward. And now we are empowering the entire group to be able to make the decision, to be able to understand and to be able to grow individually as people, even though their money is together.
Right, those are very important pointers, and so this is definitely a solution for the common mwananchi.
That is the entire target, is the common mwananchi. They need to get the same level of service as any high net worth and anybody else, and the level of support. That's the entire value proposition. Right.
Of course, solutions are out there for everybody to invest, including what Forefront is talking about, the technology, investing through a robo-advisor. We shall be joining Bwana Donald Wangunyo in a little bit. We want to take you to Mombasa, where the Cabinet Secretary in charge of Blue Economy is speaking. That is Salim Vuria. He is at the Liwatoni Fish Processing Plant, touring that particular plant. Let's listen in.
That 50% of some of the areas, the activities that have been aligned has been done. So I want to take this opportunity to ask the technical team and the contractor to now work backwards. We've given them a deadline of December, so they need to revise their plan to fit into that deadline and make sure that they deploy sufficient workmanship to make sure that this project is completed in record time. Kwa hivyo kwa kifupi tu tumefanya ziara hapa na maafisa wa ngazi za juu katika idara ya mambo ya uchumi samawati, na pia tuko na wataalamu kutoka idara ya ujenzi, na tumekubaliana kwamba hii Liwatoni ni mradi muhimu ambao ulipangiwa awamu 2 hapo mapema, lakini tumesema kwamba tutafanya awamu ya kwanza ikamilike na zile awamu zingine tutafanya pamoja na wale wawekezaji binafsi, na nimewapatia kwamba kufikia mwezi wa Disemba huu mradi uwe umekamilika. Ni mradi ambao utakuwa na gharama ya bilioni 1.49 na tayari tumeweza kuangalia kwamba inawezekana kumaliza kwa muda ule ambao nimewapatia. Na jambo muhimu ni kwamba kituo hiki kitaweza kupeana ajira kwa vijana, kina mama na Wakenya 3,000 ambao watakuwa wanaweza kufanya kazi hapa moja kwa moja. Na ni kituo muhimu kwa sababu sasa hivi tuna mazungumzo mengi na wawekezaji binafsi ili waweze kuwekeza katika bahari ya Hindi, na kwa sababu wanatumia meli kubwa wanahitaji mahali ambapo watapakua samaki wao, na hiki ndio kituo muhimu ambacho kitafanya kazi hiyo. Na pia tuna vituo vingine vidogo vidogo vile vya wale wavuvi wa wastani ambao pia tunatengeneza katika ufuo huu wa bahari. Tulifungua juzi kule Kilifi, Kichwa cha Kati, Ngomeni iko tayari, na kuna vituo vingine pia tunapangia kuvijenga mwaka huu wa fedha. Na jambo lingine muhimu pia tunaangalia miradi sawia na hii, kama ule mradi wa Shimoni, bandari ya Shimoni, ambao pia utaweza kuongeza mapato katika uchumi samawati, na ni miradi ambayo ni muhimu katika uwekezaji. Na ndio maana nimetembea hapa pwani ili kuhakikisha kwamba hawa washikadau na mkandarasi wa hapa anaweza kuongeza kasi ili mradi huu uweze kukamilika kwa muda unaofaa.
Pengine kiasi gani madeni ambacho kitakuwa kiweza kuhifadhiwa hapa?
In terms of tonnage, kuna ile chumba ya mwanzo ya kupakua itaweza kuhifadhi tani 1,000 ya samaki. Na kuna hiyo chumba pia imegawanywa mara mbili, ingine itakuwa 500, ingine pia itakuwa 500, kwa hivyo ni 1,000. Lakini hiyo ni samaki wale wa tuna. Lakini kama ni samaki wale wengine wa kawaida inaweza pia ikaongezeka zaidi, lakini tuna itakuwa ni tani 1,000 ambayo inaweza kupakuliwa na kuhifadhiwa katika hapa. Na
itafungua ajira kwa kiasi gani kwa vijana wetu ambao wamebaki bila?
Nilikuwa nimesema hapo awali kwamba tunatarajia hapa kutakuwa na ajira za Wakenya 3,000 ambazo zitakuwa ni ajira za moja kwa moja. Hizi hatujahesabu zile ajira zingine ambazo zitatokea baadaye, lakini zile ambazo tu tukifungua tunajua kuna nafasi 3,000 ambazo zitakuwa zimepatikana kwa Wakenya ambao watafanya kazi hapa.
When the National Assembly Committee on Blue Economy was here in April, they had said they had estimated the possible deadline would be in October, and they said they had been briefed that the status was 50% by then.
Nafikiri wakati
it is 50%. I don't know where is there. Why does it appear like
Hakuna mtafaruku kwa sababu wakati hata tulitembea pia wakati huo kandarasi alikuwa hajalipwa. Kwa hivyo kazi kidogo ilitatizika kwa sababu ya mambo ya fedha, lakini mwezi wa 6 akalipwa milioni 200, na ndio maana sasa ana uwezo wa kuweka kasi katika kazi hii. Na pia bajeti ya mwaka huu kuna milioni 500 nyingine ambayo Mheshimiwa Rais ameidhinisha kwa mradi huu. Kwa hivyo tuna hakika kabisa kwamba huo muda uko sawa, na kama ilikuwa ni mambo ya April pia haikuzingatia changamoto zile ambazo zilikuwepo wakati huo ambazo sasa tumezisuluhisha na kandarasi sasa ameweza kurudi kazini.
That is the Blue Economy Cabinet Secretary Salim Mvurya there speaking at his tour of the Liwatoni fish processing plant. He says that the 1.49 billion shilling project is set for completion. He is very optimistic about that, and of course it will change the lives of the people in Mombasa as well as people who are in the blue economy industry to ensure that our fish is processed and, value added for export as well. That particular story will be coming to you in details in our subsequent bulletins. We come back to studio now and we continue with our conversation on leveraging technology for investment with Donald Wangunyu, the Chief Executive Officer at Forefront Management. Thank you, Donald, for staying with us.
Absolutely, my pleasure.
Right, I'm informed that we need to take a quick break right now. When we come back, we continue the conversation. Stay with KBC.
Ingo FM fans in Kakamega, are you ready? Ingo FM and Y254 have organized a Meet the Fans tour on 25th and 26th August 2023. On Friday, 25th August, join us at Butere Boys High School, where the Baraza Foundation has organized sports activities including a football match pitting Kakamega Homeboys versus Butere combined. In the evening, join us as we witness the crowning of Mr. and Miss Butere live from Charlie 037 Resort. These events will be covered by Y254 and Ingo FM. On Saturday, 26th August, our team shall visit Noah Yale Children's Home, where we shall donate dignity packs. And the climax of our Kakamega tour will be the launch of Ingo FM Mashabi Club at Bondeni Primary School. Don't miss out. All are welcome.
Sauti ya Kenya
92.9. Hii ni KBC Radio Taifa.
Kila kitu maishani kina sauti yaleta furaha.
Radio.
Sauti ya elimisha, yahimiza, yatuleta pamoja. Sauti ya Kenya
Radio Taifa.
Sauti ya Kenya.
And heartbreak as well for the young Botswanan and Ndori, who went down after about 100 metres over on the back straight out in lane 8. Dear oh dear. 3 so eventful races, Rob. Drama upon drama in the men's one-lap semi-final. It's over 66 metres, surely. Watches the flight. She looks okay with it, doesn't she? When they look interested, they know pretty well how it's gone. Feng here, giving everything. What a series. 66, 65, 65, 67, 18 from Feng. So good to see. And Thomas Schoenleber was an East German, with all that implies. So many people will be punching the air, having seen that European record refreshed.
What focus in his eyes. And there might be more to come. There is no question we are in the presence of sporting greatness. Kip Yegon in a class of her own. She hasn't just taken this title, she's absolutely obliterated the whole field. 3:52.96.
Thank you for staying with Channel 1. This is BizCheck. My name is Betty Kiptum. We are having a conversation on matters leveraging technology for investment with Donald Wangunyu, the Chief Executive Officer at Forefront Management. Now, Donald, you've talked a lot about what these this technology is about. You've told us it's a robo-advisor. Of course, it's licensed. It's not that you're, investing blindly. Yes, it's a licensed advisor. So how much of awareness do you need to do now for people to truly understand this particular solution, and what are your plans moving forward?
All right, excellent. So we have had a significant amount of time in R&D, research and development. To be able to build AI into investing is not a simple task, as one can imagine. And we are quite happy with what has come out and what our initial customers have told us. In fact, we were quite proud when we exited the regulators. They have what's called a sandbox, which is a mechanism where you can test new technologies, like in our case AI, algorithms and the rest. And we're quite proud when we graduated from the program as the very first in the country. And so any other person who is licensed as a robo-advisor at some point in future would actually have to follow our entire plan. So now what we are looking to do now, starting with this good show, is actually start telling people there is support beyond access. Yes, you can access the market. Now let's get to understanding how do we actually make money. And that's what we are here for, isn't it? We want to know exactly how do I make money in whatever situation. If the price has done this, what support do I have to know what strategy is best, right? And so now we are starting to reach out. We are going to different associations that we want to come up to. Of course, we have the Kenya Association of Investment Groups that we want to reach out to as well, and many more. And so we've just begun the journey of being able to get the message out. The second way we do it is our members, as we like to call them, can challenge one another. All right, and so when one situation comes, I can come out and say, Betty, I think we should do this, and then you tell me, Donald, I think we should do this, and then the system gives you the final answer, and then you're able to challenge, are we doing better? Am I doing better than you? And maybe, we bet for a cup of coffee that I have the better answer than you do. And so in the sharing, it's also getting a very nice viral growth as well between friends, between family members and the rest. So those are generally our plans.
Right.
Yes.
So what is the future like? I mean, you've said that in some developed markets, this is what happens on a daily basis for like 70% of investments or more. What is the future like for Kenya?
For Kenya, we have begun on the journey. We have begun on the journey of algorithmic trading. The Nairobi Stock Exchange has been accepting what we call high-frequency orders, because we pump orders into the exchange for a few years now, almost 3 years now, as we've been doing our work. So the exchange has been ready for this level of technology for a long time. And so we are now bringing in the level of support that investors need, where we are saying, I am an adult, I know how to make decisions, just give me the things I need to know and give it to me in a way that I don't have to sit in a classroom to be able to get it. And so our future will be new investors who are able to simply drive this market. There is always the concern that as we are looking at this market, at the stock exchange, we're asking ourselves, is there opportunity? Or I think there is no opportunity. I think prices are only falling. Yet, foreign investors are 70% of the traders. So while we are asking ourselves, is there opportunity, foreigners are coming in and saying, and taking all the returns, right? Now, don't get me wrong, we absolutely need foreign investors. It is a significant advantage to the country. But what I would want, Betty, is have you invested and taken your fill of return and then say, yes, we can give the rest to the foreign investors? That's the big question we want to have. And so our future is extremely bright in terms of being able to make money from the stock market. When the stock market is going down, you can make money, right? So so if someone tells you, oh, but the market is always going down, the answer is yes, and I made money because of it. Yeah, the stock market is rising, I'll make money. Oh, I think I'm going to take a break for the next 3 months. Well, I'll make interest on my shares. So the amount of opportunity to make money in the stock market is just tremendous. Let's not just have it go to the foreigners. Let's take our fill first and then give the rest to them. But we welcome them to come as well.
Definitely.
Yes.
Thank you very much, Donald. That's where we end the conversation this morning.
Wonderful.
Asante sana for joining me.
Thank you very much. It was indeed a pleasure to speak with you. Thank you very much.
Awesome. Thank you very much. That is Donald Wangunyu, the Chief Executive Officer at Forefront Management. We have talked a lot about how technology is transforming the investment industry, of course, algorithmic trading to be specific. And the message is that there is an opportunity, an investment opportunity for everybody in this country. Remember that you can also take advantage of those particular solutions. Just take a look online and see what you find for yourself, and hope that that changes your life and sets you on an investment journey that you will enjoy in the near future. Well, my name is Betty Kiptum. We want to now just give you some results from the World Athletics Championships that are ongoing in Budapest. Remember that that particular walking race by men was ongoing when we started the show. The results are in. Alvaro Martin from Spain won that particular race at 2 hours, 24 minutes and 30 seconds, which is a national record. Brian Daniel Pintado from Ecuador followed, as well as Masatora Kawano took the bronze from Japan. For the women 35-kilometer walking race results, Maria Perez from Spain won that at 2 minutes 38 seconds and 2 hours 38 seconds and 38 minutes rather and 40 seconds, followed by Kimberly Garcia Leon, who is from Peru, at 2 hours 40 minutes and 52 seconds, and third is Antigone Ntrizmpioti from Greece. That is 2 hours 43 minutes and 22 seconds. That is her season's best. Those are pictures from that particular race that ended. That is the 35 kilometers walking race. Those are now for the men, and that is Martin Alvaro, the one who won that particular race. He takes the gold. Pintado, right behind him, takes the silver from Ecuador with 2 hours, 24 minutes and 34 seconds. Just 4 seconds behind Alvaro Martin, who won that particular race, 35 kilometers walking race for men at the World Athletics Championships in Budapest. Let's listen into that. Those are pictures coming to us from Budapest, where the World Athletics Championships are ongoing. Of course, the 35 kilometers walking race for the men and women was done about an hour ago. We have those results, and I've just read them. Of course, the Spaniards taking those particular races, the gold for both the men and women. We now want to get back to our conversation, or to start a new conversation in studio here on BizCheck, and we want to talk about medical technology and the Transforming Africa MedTech Conference that started today. It's a 2-day conference. It's ongoing. And Dr. Robert Karanja from Vilgro Africa is here to talk to us about that particular conference and what MedTech is doing for Africa's health sector. Thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you so much, Betty. It's a pleasure to be here.
Karibu sana. So tell us about the conference. What is going on and what kind of conversations are happening there?
Okay, thank you. So maybe just by a quick way of introduction. Yes. Myself, I'm a biomedical scientist. So when we talk of business, most people don't think of scientists, don't think of engineers. We're supposed to operate in the labs and create stuff and write papers and wow people with brilliance. But what we are seeing is that there's a need to be able to translate research output into impact. And that requires rethinking about the way we do things. What is the role of academia other than bringing out graduates and doing research and publishing? Is it possible to actually have the research that we're doing, which is usually very well guided research on the problems that we experience in our society, start transforming the African narrative in terms of industrialization, in terms of jobs for the youth, in terms of public health impact, you name it. And the Transforming African MedTech Conference is really bringing that conversation home to the medtech industry specifically. Now, we looked at the experience of our health system during COVID. We had a major challenge in terms of how do we deal with this pandemic. And it really became very clear that our health system has been underinvested over a long period of time. So 80% of the health facilities across the continent are under-equipped. We go to hospital expecting that the doctors will be able to treat us, the nurses will be able to take care of us, but they need medical devices. When you go to the lab, they need equipment to do these tests. And all of these machines that we typically don't see because we only see the human being in front of us. But they need they need a lot of infrastructural support to be able to deliver healthcare, and also to be able to deliver it at an affordable price. So the challenge we saw during COVID was, not only were we struggling in terms of issues like vaccines and drugs when the global supply chains dried up, but we also saw that even for things like in the laboratories, being able to do testing for COVID was a challenge. Being able to access oxygen in our health facilities was a challenge. Being able to do so many things that healthcare providers need because they need medical equipment was becoming extremely limited. And so we realized that we have it within us. For example, Kenyatta University students were able to come up with a manual ventilator, and they were fitted by the president, by the United Nations office in Nairobi, by very many forums, I think, including here, for the amazing work that they did. But this capacity has been there all along, but it has really not been nurtured to go all the way from building a prototype, meeting the regulatory approval, being able to enter our health facilities to actually provide the care.
So what is the challenge that Africa faces, Kenya included, in terms of translating these innovations into things that can be scaled?
That's a really good question. It's also a very deep question.
Yes.
So we have several challenges. On the one hand, the ability to interface what we are doing in research with what is happening in the industry, and then what's also happening in the financial markets, requires a very multidisciplinary, multi-skilled kind of thinking. Basically bringing problem solving with all hands on deck. Unfortunately, what we see is very siloed approach. Most academia hang out with academia. Most people in the financial sector hang out with people in the financial sector. People in the industry, likewise, they'll go to the banks when they need money. So what's happening is that we are not being able to connect the dots. And I think that's the number one main issue. And then the second one is also sometimes we're not able to connect the dots because of the language. Me and you are here, we are speaking in English, and I think we understand one another. But this English can be very interesting. The same words that we are using, like transforming or medical might mean something to an engineer, it may mean something different to a doctor. When you're trying to get financing from the financial markets to invest in the innovation, you need to speak to them like a business person. You need to alert them as to what is a business opportunity. Why should they back you? What is unique about this innovation of yours? And those are skill sets that a lot of people in the academia in STEM really do not have. For most scientists, most engineers like me, if you ask them, when's the last time you did any course on commerce? Do you know how to read a spreadsheet? We'll probably tell you, you remember in Form 2 when you were selecting subjects, yeah. Because then at that very early stage in our lives, we're already now being driven in a certain direction. And so you then start realizing it's not just even language, you even have structural barriers to connecting these dots. And so we really believe we need to, in many ways, have what we call the triple helix, being able to have academia that studies our problems, comes up with solutions, innovates, invents new technologies, the industry, which covers both the financial markets that are looking out for opportunities to invest in, by the way, but they are not hearing from these guys over here. And also the people who are in the manufacturing, in distribution, the entire value chain needs to be able to understand what is this technology that's been developed here within this space, and how can we plug into it. And then the government needs to create the enabling environment. So what does it take to be able to move? So let me put it this way. It's like having a choir, and all these people are supposed to sing together, but they have very different motivations. So you need the government to come in and read the landscape, understand that this character is motivated by XYZ, this one by ABC, this one by GH, and make sure that their motivations eventually converge so that they start working in a concerted effort. Yeah.
Right. So now what needs to be done? Because governments can invest. There's also the private sector that needs to also invest in this sector. What needs to be done to ensure that the med tech is growing in Africa?
That's a brilliant question. So in Africa right now, there's a lot that's happening, especially in the innovation space. And sometimes we measure what's happening in the innovation space just by looking at how much investment is happening in this, if I was to call it an industry, or if I was to talk of the startup ecosystem. And last year, I think we were doing about $5 billion in terms of investment, venture capital coming into innovative startups. How many of these innovative startups are emerging from academia? Not many. A lot of them are emerging from innovation hubs. A lot of them are doing IT, tech, but the academia seems to be struggling to get into the game. And again, part of it, as I said, is structural issues. The incentives for academia versus incentives within private sector are very different. And then the second thing is the language is completely different. So when you talk about health, and I'm trying to talk of, for example, malaria, I can be able to say, if you ask me, how big is the problem of malaria? In academia, I'll tell you, 90% of all the malaria in the world happens to be in Africa. Very high prevalence rate. What does that mean to a financier? What does it mean to a venture capitalist? They need to hear what is the market size. And I may not have the language to translate it to them in that way, and even understanding how do I switch from disease prevalence, incidence to market size, and understanding the trends. Is this market growing? Is it stagnating? Is it going downwards? What will be different with my innovation to make it change? Because investors are there to make money. And then the other thing I think that we also need to do is to understand how to get the regulatory space to come in. If you look at the health space, it's very interesting that one of the reasons, and this is one of the reasons that we're talking about medtech specifically, is that we really forget the medical equipment the lab equipment, the stethoscopes, and all these things that the doctors need in terms of healthcare. And to such an extent that when I look at what's our capacity for regulation, not just in Kenya, but in most of the continent, there's a huge weakness in terms of regulatory capacity. So if I'm developing a device to help you breathe, like the ventilator that the Kenyatta University students had developed, we need to have, at the Pharmacy and Poisons Board, capacity for dealing with medical equipment. But what they understand very well is drugs. Mm-hmm. What they're now looking to even increase more in terms of regulatory science is vaccines. Nobody's talking about medical equipment. And it's very different when you try to deal with an engineering product, like a chemical product or a biological product. Some of the principles might apply, but you might find some strategies and tactics will be completely different. So these things start falling through the cracks. And that's one of the challenges we saw even here in Kenya. I think we had about 6 or 7 teams that were working on manual ventilators across the country, in academia, in private sector, even KEPSA had one. But none of them were able to cross the finishing line because we had a major challenge in terms of the regulatory science, the ability to regulate innovation. And it's not just for medtech, by the way. It's just that medtech is specifically is severely affected. When most of us are dealing with medical products, we tend to import. Yeah. So we import literally, I'd say, way over 90% of all the medical equipment that we're using. We're really importing a lot. The challenge here is that our regulatory science is our regulators are used to seeing somebody has already given market approval for these products in the US, in Australia, in Europe, in Japan. So they basically come and rubber stamp. So now when you're developing it here and it doesn't have the prior US approval or WHO pre-qualification and stuff like that, there's really no roadmap for our regulators in terms of how do I regulate this homegrown solution. So that's another major challenge that we're facing. Right. So not only do we need to build capacity within the STEM community, but we also need to build capacity within the regulatory agencies. Right. And is there anything that is being done on that front in terms of regulatory, the framework? And is the industry as well lobbying these particular the regulators on that front? Wow. Some of this is chicken and egg. Mm-hmm. So we do have industry, yes. Yeah. And because, as I said, we do import a lot of technologies. But in this case, then the industry is companies coming in from Europe, from Japan, from US, and they will lobby, but they have different needs. So for them is to make sure that when they get an approval within their countries, that it's easier to get that approval reciprocated or acknowledged in Kenya. Mm-hmm. So that's very different from the students that were at Kenyatta University saying, we're going to build this technology and we want you to come and give us market approval. Because then the needs are very different. And the stage at which both of them are, is quite different. So there's and then the reason it becomes a chicken and egg scenario is because where's the local industry? It's now that we're creating the local industry. Yeah. And how do we organize the local industry so that they can be able to have a seat at the table? And that's really one of the big reasons why we are bringing together the ecosystem actors for medtech across the African continent to come and say, how do we organize ourselves? How do we have a network, an association, so that when government is saying, we want to hear from you, we can actually say, hey, talk to our chairman, talk to this body that can speak on our behalf because we're members of it, and so on and so forth, and then be able to then tabulate and make the needs for a young innovative industry become known to the government. Right. As you said a little bit earlier, of course, COVID-19 showed us that we should not be over-dependent on the outside world, especially for Africa, because, it got to a point when hoarding of vaccines was happening and Africa could not access any. So how is Africa collaborating, cross-country collaboration to ensure that medtech is growing in the continent? Okay, thank you. I think that is a lot of what we do. So if I look at my organization, Build Grow Africa, well, number one, we are providing both technical support to innovators. We're also providing financial support. So we also invest in startups that are developing homegrown solutions, not just in Kenya, but across the continent. And so we need more of that. I think we are literally a drop in the ocean in terms of the need and in terms of the talent and expertise that I'm always shocked by just how much in terms of human resource talent we really have on the continent. But they need capital to be able to take the ideas forward. The second thing I think is also they need to be able to understand how do we support them in terms of leveraging our academia. So a lot of this innovation work needs a lot of infrastructure. If I'm going to be experimenting as an engineer, I need laboratories, I need spaces that give me the equipment to build my prototype, refine it, develop it, and even start doing the translational research towards industrial manufacturing. And think working out how do I even manufacture this at scale. All that has to be defined through R&D. There's no copy-paste, and that capacity exists primarily, as of right now, in our universities. So how do we get universities to open up and be able to share that resource to innovators, of course within the university, but even outside of the university? Then the other thing is also to revisit the national innovation systems. So a lot of countries, again, looking at Kenya, we have the Kenya Industrial Research and Development Institute that should be able to do that translational research from lab scale to pilot manufacturing scale. Are they equipped? Are they funded enough to be able to support that part of the value chain? And then ultimately being able to also organize our markets. And I think we're already doing so, to be honest. I think in terms of the African Free Continental Trade Area, that's massive, because we're talking about massive capital expenditures in this kind of startups, as opposed to the tech startups. They also require a lot of money, I know, but believe you me, by the time I'm doing clinical trials, I'm actually probably spending in the tunes of millions of dollars, and you still have not generated a single dollar or a single shilling in revenue. So being able to then ask, where is the market that can enable an investor to recoup that investment? So we do need to harmonize our regulatory processes. We do need to open up our markets, because this is a game that you can only do with an export, as an export game. I don't think we have a single country on the continent whose domestic market is big enough to warrant the effort or the investment. So we also need to then understand, now we get into the issues of the foreign affairs, trade policies, and regional economic blocks, and how do we ensure that all of these things are working towards building Africa's homegrown industry in the medtech space.
Which is very important, of course, because Africa's health sector is not yet as developed as that of the developed world, and there's a high need. Now, the government has, let's say it holds the health sector of the country and maybe of the continent. So as a consumer, what can the government do to support this industry?
There's a lot. I think, and you're very right. Number one, in the health sector, the biggest customer will always be the public health system. So the first question is, how good of a customer is this public health system for homegrown solutions? Are they buying? And this could be anything, including like hospital beds. I remember in the previous government, the President Uhuru, talking about, can we make hospital beds? Because you have to ask yourself, why are we importing hospital beds? What is super special about these hospital beds? Well, they are special, and there are standards you need to meet for it to qualify to be a hospital bed, because you have to think about issues like diseases that you can acquire in hospital. So how do you clean? How do you maintain them? How do you sterilize them frequently? Otherwise, hospitals can be a major place of contagion. You can all go there and work out worse. So there are some aspects that come into some of these things. But my question then is, how can the government really adopt homegrown solutions? We do need to have a market. We do need to see government being able to have procurement processes and policies and regulations that speak to health products. It's very different, for example, when you're doing, you're looking at the national procurement process, because they're all competitive. And in almost every case, you even when you put in a tender, there has to be comparisons. The thinking is kind of, how do I get the lowest, most affordable price? And in healthcare, that is not necessarily the case. Most affordable does not mean the most cost-effective. And then in some cases, there are also hidden factors. So you may find you're talking about a product that, even to use it, it requires you to also buy some other infrastructure. So the holistic thinking and what we call the health technology assessment or health technology evaluation to drive our procurement processes in government does not exist.
Okay.
So we are still seeing healthcare products being bought as if it's buying stationery for the school, and then you of course end up in a lot of problems. And we actually saw a big example of that in the managed equipment services program. Again, that happened not too long ago, where we basically said, hey, we're going to go and get the best medical equipment in the world, come and outfit 92 or 98 hospitals across the country and fix this health system problem once and for all. What we discovered was not, to me, it was not a shock, but I think it was a shock to the system, that those equipments are designed for a different market, and they're not a really good fit for us. Today, if you walk through our hospitals, you'll actually realize, like I said, 20 to 30% of medical equipment is what's operational. 70% of it fails within 2 years. And behind every hospital, we have what you call either, you can call it a museum or a junkyard or a graveyard of medical equipment. Why? Because of the issue of fit. They are designed to solve a problem in a specific context. Our context is a very low resource setting context. And so the assumptions that they make in the design and the development of those equipments, when they come and plug and play them into our system, it backfires enormously. We have issues of power fluctuation, we have issues of dust, for example. We have issues of where do you get the supplies for spare parts, the talent for maintenance. A lot of it turns, I think almost 70% of the medical equipment in our hospitals tends to be donations. And sometimes, we are told you don't look at a gift horse in the mouth. But we do need to look. We do need to actually apply a lot of health technology assessment, because sometimes even the language of the manual is in Chinese, for example, or in Italian. I don't know how to read. When you say it's like Greek, to a lot of our health system, most of this equipment is in Greek. And yet they're supposed to be able to utilize it, they're supposed to be able to manage it, they're supposed to be able to service it in order to provide health care to the citizens. So there is a huge lack of fit as one of the key problems of assuming that global supply chains will actually solve our problem. We really need niche-made products for this market, because we do, low resource setting has its unique issues. Even understanding how many, like for example, what's the human resource available in a hospital. So you'll find our nurses, they're forced to cope with wards of 20s, 30s to one person. So if you're expecting this machine needs to have constant, you anticipated it was in a place where the ratio of nurse to patient is for every 5 patients you have a nurse. Shock on you. It's coming to malfunction simply because you did not understand the context. So to me, I think that's a big challenge that we're facing.
So that is how we are spending a lot of money acquiring technology that is not helping us in the long run.
We contribute to that graveyard of equipment behind our hospitals.
Right, that is quite a big problem. So now this conversation that is happening, it's good that conversations are happening now. Are governments involved in this particular conference, and what expected outcomes are there?
That's a great question. Governments are involved. We do work closely with various arms of government, not just in Kenya, but even in every country we operate in. So if I look at, for example, in Tanzania, where we are actually establishing an industrial cluster for medtech. We are working with Ifakara Health Institute, a national research institute there. We're also working with the Ministry of Health very closely. And of course, the regulatory, the Tanzania sector university. So the Ministry of Education are some of the people we work with. I personally happen to sit on the board of the Kenya National Innovation Agency because we understand the need for that enabling environment. and being able to have the appropriate policy to support the knowledge economy for Kenya and for Africa. Yep.
Right. So as you're saying, now we are in the right direction.
We are heading in the right direction. It's very early stage.
Okay.
I think what I'd like to say is, and what we want to achieve with the conference, is two things. The first one is, like I said, how do we organize the actors so that we can actually be able to have a seat at the table? When we're all working in our various, when you're a startup, you really have the luxury of lifting your head up from the work in front of you to understand what is everybody else doing and how do we come together and join forces to become stronger. So being able to organize ourselves as a sector. The second one is then also being able to articulate the policy and regulatory issues that face us. As I said, the regulatory science is a huge challenge. And then the other one is to also bring a spotlight to investing in this particular industry. It's an industry where the opportunity is massive. So when I look at it, again, Africa is an underserved market. I think we are about 1.2% of the global medtech market. So that tells you nobody's fighting to come here to serve this market. So we have this opportunity to serve it without having to even go through all those patenting and what have you. You already have a monopoly in terms, because this is a neglected market. So why not grab that opportunity? Why not flip this issue of our health issues and flip it into a market opportunity that creates jobs for our graduates? We are now seeing the emergence of a very vibrant startup space. I forgot to tell you earlier, out of $5 billion last year, I think we only got about $120-something million coming to healthcare. Not even medtech, all of healthcare.
Wow,
that's the only amount.
Low.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And again, part of it is because we also need to be able to bring attention to this space. That's why we're organizing this conference, so that investors are aware that there's a lot happening. There are people sitting in Tunisia coming up with solutions for the health system. There are people sitting in Accra. There are people sitting in Cape Town, people in Kampala, in Nairobi, all these places, Nigeria. But we have not done a good job of marketing our space as a target for investment in terms of venture capital. And also for R&D, because I think it could always, every university down will tell you, we're not funded enough.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah. Most of, or rather a lot of Africans have to travel abroad to seek specialized medical treatment.
Yeah.
And for some countries, medical tourism is even a main, foreign exchange earner. How is Kenya doing anything to position itself as maybe a potential medical tourism destination, especially for Africa, the neglected market? And what would it even take to get there?
That is a good question. I think Kenya by default already is. When you if you go to some of our health facilities, or like on Saturday, not very early in the morning, but from around 10 o'clock, then you start seeing a lot of people sitting in those queues are actually not Kenyan, traveling in from our region to access healthcare here in Kenya. So there are things that we're actually doing right. But we're not doing enough, because we also know that we spend about 10 billion Kenya shillings annually flying people to India. And part of it is, again, going back to my point of why do we need local innovation. I think we need to be able to innovate for the technology, but we also need to innovate for the business model. And because I'm a big believer that the way we understand the health sector or the health industry in the West does not really work for us in Africa. Our purchasing power is not that great. We are very price sensitive. So we need to be able to have businesses that are, in essence, for-profit social enterprises whose architecture is big volume, lower margins, not I'm going to patent and then price gouge you as much as you can bear because I have the patent. So because what happens is when we're not able to afford it, we just die. And the difference is when it's me as opposed to a foreign company that is bringing the health solution, I won't sit down and watch my people die. I may be a little bit I might have a much more stronger business acumen when it is somebody other that's dying. But when it is my grandmother, my mom, your sister, it doesn't make sense. You'll actually say, hey, why do we do all this work in the first place? It's because of our family, it's because of our community. So we do need to nurture homegrown industry because they'll care about the quality, they'll care about the pricing, they'll care about the access of their solutions to the people that matter to them, which is us.
Which is us. Working with county governments?
County governments, yes, we are. For example, one of our startups is currently currently in negotiations, I think, with Makueni County.
Okay.
They came up with a refrigeration unit that can be able to prevent vaccines from going bad during the COVID vaccine campaigns. So using solar, using various kinds of technology, just to make sure that you can extend what we call the cold chain for vaccine delivery. Very simple, but very impactful, because when you don't have that, what happens is the vaccines are sent out from the health facility in the morning, probably by 10, 11 o'clock when the sun is up there. They're actually no good.
Yeah.
But you have some targets to meet. So they are busy jabbing people, knowing full well that it's probably not even viable at this point.
Yeah.
And it's not just vaccines, it's the same thing for blood. When you talk of blood donations and somebody needs a pint or two of blood, and in a place like Lodwar, how do you get it to them? Or other things. People who are diabetic, insulin, how do you manage insulin? Again, it's a protein that again requires cold chain. So we are actually innovating from the very basic solutions like Vaxibox to very complex. So for example, another company that we're working with in Uganda is developing a medical device for screening and diagnosing for pneumonia in children under 5. So, and that's pneumonia is the #1 killer for under 5s in Africa. And again, when you look at a health facility, our nurses who are supposed to do the triage should actually take the time to do the respiratory rate. But that usually takes about a couple of minutes.
Okay.
If I have a queue of 10, 20, 50 people seated outside that door and they're asking me to take the respiratory rate every time, I'll only do it for the very obvious cases. The children that are literally gasping for breath. And by that time, you don't need to be a genius to be told this is likely pneumonia. In fact, they'll then quickly order an X-ray or something. But at that time, it's been caught too late. At that time, you're really fighting for this child's life. Whereas if you're able to catch it early, some simple antibiotics could probably clear the issue. And that's the only reason that children are dying in masses. And so what they're doing is coming up with a technology that uses sensors you place on the chest. It will listen, or it will take the respiratory rate for the nurses so that very quickly they don't have to labor on that. It's using artificial intelligence to look at all the different things that are happening within the chest and give a score that can help the nurse to say, you may want to do a follow-up investigation for this particular child just to make sure there is no pneumonia somewhere hiding in there or in the early stages. And that makes all the difference. Others are doing UV light for being able to treat jaundice. And you think of something like jaundice, we were told all you need is vitamin D, go to the sun.
Go to the sun.
But what if you're talking about a baby that was born a month premature? You don't have the option of taking them out to the sun. You need to be able to provide that UV light in that health facility. If you go to our maternities and our newborn units in most of our hospitals, the demand for those UV light phototherapies is so big. What has been developed to serve a single baby, you usually find 2 and 3 babies packed in it like sardines, because we don't have the capacity to provide all the. When I was talking about 80% of our health facilities are struggling in terms of medical equipment. Those are some of the issues that we're talking about, and we're saying, some of these things we can actually manufacture. It's not rocket science. We don't even need to invent something. In some cases, like for the pneumonia device, that one is 100% invention with patents and all of that. And all of these things are coming from Africans who have had this capacity all along, but lacking the opportunities for technical support, You need to learn a lot more than just being a good scientist or an engineer. You need to understand quality management systems. You need to be able to understand pricing, what are the unit costs. You need to speak both as an engineer, a scientist. You need to understand regulatory issues. You need to speak like an industrialist to be able to mobilize the capital, and then finally make sure that your product reaches the customer. So you still need to be an entrepreneur. So all of these things are the issues that we are basically discussing and saying, how do we get all this work covered? What's the smartest approach? You guys in South Africa, how are you doing it? How are you coping? Tunisia, you're doing very well. What can we learn from you? In Tanzania, building an industrial cluster from scratch. It sounds like madness, but they are doing it already. We have a cohort of about 6 startups that are at fairly advanced stages of building medical devices from scratch. And that starts to become the seed for an innovative industry here in East Africa for medtech. Uganda, again, full of technologies. Ethiopia, we're finding the same. Go to Ghana. All these places, there's a lot bubbling, but people don't know. So we're here to tell the story. We're here to wave the flag and say, hey, you don't want to miss out on this. This year, for example, I think the biggest exit in terms of the startups was not a fintech. It was InstaDeep. InstaDeep is an AI startup from Tunisia that was acquired by BioNTech for more than $600 million. It's the largest exit we've seen on the continent already. So here is a health startup that, again, everybody believes we only have fintech, M-Pesa, because that's what people believe makes money.
Yes, and that is the story that is
and that's
being
the story
told.
that's out there. And all I'm saying is, hey, guess what? Things are changing. The scientists are also stepping up the game. Engineers are stepping up the game. And we're seeing a lot of innovation happening within the medtech, the life sciences space, that is also not only attracting venture capital, but making venture capitalists rich. You want to be part of this.
You want to be part of this, where the money is.
Where the money is.
Are the young people interested?
Absolutely. And that's a great question, because there's the desire to have jobs for the youth.
Yes.
And I think the knowledge economy can achieve that for the youth more than any other sector. The challenge, though, is what kind of sector are we talking about? So if you're talking of knowledge economy, for example, for fintech and things like that, I think I see the youth playing a big role. I don't see them playing a big role in medtech necessarily, because you need a lot of domain expertise. Everything we're talking about for our regulation starts from the R&D. Forget in the marketplace. You need to prove the simple maxim of do no harm, do no harm, do no harm. That's Hippocratic oath. So and you prove it by generating data. So it's expensive. And then also the bar now for being able to move from this is safe to now this is also efficacious is extremely high. And the way to do it is then to ask, how do we get our faculty at the universities, our senior academia fellows, as they design their R&D programs, can they build a pipeline where they don't just do research, but they also start spinning off startups that they continue to back, not out there, but within academia. And my argument is always very simple. What happens to our PhD students? We don't have enough spaces in our universities to absorb even 10% of them. And when you are highly trained in these STEM areas and you don't have anybody to employ you, you're forced to leave the country. So we're actually building the knowledge economy for the West, for the North, even China. We're exporting tons and tons of our best graduates simply because we are not building the local industry that can absorb them. So what we need to do is to understand as government, it's not just a question of how many scientists, how many engineers do we have. It's also a question of what do we do with this pipeline of scientists, engineers that we are generating in our universities. As they get to that PhD level, which if you think about the public investment in our graduates, if you are going through our university from undergraduate, you do a master's, you do a PhD, in some cases even do a postdoc. That's a lot of investment. A lot of that is subsidized by the taxpayer. So where's the return on this investment? It can only come through local industry. So the ability to then say, how do our universities start to shift into being technology parks, science and technology parks, industrial parks, so that this PhD student, that postdoc student, rather than them leaving the country, they are told, okay, we finished your academic road pathway right now, but you can create a startup right next to your lab so that you can still access the equipment you used to have in the lab to do the next steps of the R&D for this particular product. And then now that way then, because they set it up as a startup that is still within the academia space, venture capitalists like Vilgro Africa, like Jaza Rift Ventures, again one of our organizers, are able to then come in and invest in this startup. And the professor that was probably the PhD student supervisor can also bring more R&D grant funding that can cross-subsidize some of the startup work. Because then that way you're able to then start building, when you talk about knowledge economy, you start seeing it taking shape and mushrooming in front of your very eyes.
Right.
And again, it's not rocket science. It's just saying, I created the IP, but the IP belongs to my employer, that's the university or the research institute. I need to then create a startup, that's a legal entity in its own right, just like I am a legal entity before the laws, in the eyes of the law. That startup can now license the IP from my employer to the startup. Venture capital can now come in, R&D can still come in, and then now we've been able to cross that valley of death that we talk about. The 5 or so years where you're not being able to generate revenue, but you're incurring huge costs of product development and demonstrating, again, to our regulators that it is safe, it is effective. And again, even to the health sector, you even need to do even more research to prove it is cost effective.
Right.
So again, speaking to the health technology assessment criteria, and I think that's kind of how we see the landscape shaping up, so that the solutions that, like those COVID solutions do not die, but we start working together, each of us saying, so what's my role in this? If you're the regulator, what's your role in it? If you're academia, what's your role in it? If you're a venture capitalist, if you're an incubator accelerator, if you are the Ministry of Industrialization, how do you support this? What are the policies that can drive this and take it to the next level?
Right. Yeah. So even as all this is happening, is there room for mentorship for the young people? Because of course they cannot be there as the professor, but they can be there as mentors of the professor.
Number one is the mentorship is always happening.
Okay.
And then number two is those startups will need employees.
Definitely.
So believe you me, if I'm a university graduate right now, between mentorship and a job, what I really want is a job.
Is a job, I agree. No question about it.
What I really want is a job.
Yeah.
And then now with the job, bring the mentorship.
Yeah.
And I think, again, what are professors good at? It's nurturing young minds. So if we're being able to start creating this knowledge economy where we start seeing not just the academia, but we start seeing the nascent industry in close proximity, and then the feedback loop. It's very interesting. When I look at the big established universities, the Harvards, the Oxfords, the Cambridge, you name them, some of these universities have massive endowment funds. And you have to ask yourself, is it that these people are more generous than we are? How comes our universities don't have endowment funds? What you realize is that the people who are writing these big checks to these universities are the people who are the startups that were nurtured by those universities. So they always feel, I owe a debt of gratitude. These guys are the ones that made me. And so when they have that opportunity that they are now high net worth individuals, millionaires, billionaires, what have you, and they are approached by the university and they are told, how do we bring up the next generation of people, of innovators like you? Where will the next Elon Musk come from? If they're all leaving us to go to America, our universities will remain poor. But the more we're able to understand how do we nurture them, how do we bring in strategic partnerships so that they're able to bridge the gap from where the R&D typically stops. Because in our academia, we typically go to the proof of concept. Then beyond proof of concept, then now you need to actually do a lot of heavy lifting in terms of product development. And it's very iterative, especially for medtech. You talk of you want to design, build, test, and then evaluate, and then go again and again until you get to the optimum criteria that you know the market needs.
Okay.
So how do we build systems that lower the cost of doing that? Like I said, a lot of the infrastructure exists in academia. It's cheaper for me as an investor to work with somebody who's working in close proximity to academia. It's even easier for the startup founder to raise capital because they're not thinking, I first need to build a lab to then now start the actual R&D, And then with time, we'll then get to a point where we'll see the startups, like now, or the insert like that I'm talking about, they don't need the universities anymore. They probably have not been needed the university for the last 3, 4, 5 years because they had already acquired enough capital to set up their own infrastructure. But in those early days, it's really important to be part of the ecosystem.
All right.
Yeah.
Awesome. So we are coming to the end of our conversation. I'll give you just 30 seconds to give us your closing remarks.
Okay, thank you so much. So I want to basically just invite everybody to be part of this conversation. I think we have a big continent and we have a big heart. And to be honest, it takes a lot of effort. It requires us to be bold, to be imaginative, and to take the bull by the horns and say, we can do this. COVID taught us. We have a proof of concept right there. We didn't have capacity even for masks and what have you. And we're able to manufacture these things.
All right.
We're able to build ventilators, things that are invasive medical equipment, very complex. And I think we can do that again and again. And if we don't build it, who will?
Who will? Thank you very much for speaking with us. That is Dr. Robert Karanja. He is from Vilgro, Africa, talking to us about the MedTech and MedTech conference that is going on, the Transforming Africa MedTech conference. We've talked about what medical technology is, the industry is doing currently to support the health sector in Africa. And those conversations are very important. That is where we end the program this particular afternoon. My name is Betty Kiptum. Enjoy the rest of your viewing. Bye-bye.
She hasn't just taken this title, she's absolutely obliterated the whole field. 3:52.96.
It's a big stage with big names and big expectations.